Are you tired of the very low frame rate and trees that look like they come out straight off the N64 in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Maybe instead it's the game-breaking glitches that turn NPCs into something straight off The Exorcist here. Well then, do I have the perfect run for you. This is going to be my challenge of playing Pokerogue using only Generation 9 Pokemon. So, the rules are pretty straightforward, only Generation 9, and we need to beat at all 200 levels. For the starters, I chose one familiar face and two brand new faces. The familiar face being Tinkatink, as obviously Fairy Steel is personally what I think to be the best type matchup for the entire game. Second up, I went with a Fuecoco. It's obviously the starter of Generation 9, and with Torch Song, it just becomes an incredible stacking unit. Finally, I chose a Frigibax, with that Dragon Ice typing just having a ton of offensive output. Going into the first rival fight here against Ivy, we see a opposing Fuecoco, which will be pretty interesting for the mirror matches most likely down the road, because I think Fuecoco will be the only one that will actually match up to it once it becomes a Skeledirge. Going into the second rival fight here, we see the Crocolore. But, however, Frigibax did start with Dragon Darts, which just makes it an incredibly powerful unit, especially early in this game. I mean, it's able to kill pretty much anything that walks. And it's not yet shown, but we do have a Tandemau and a Palmo, which are also very good units in this game, with Tandemau obviously getting its signature move Population Bomb, and Palmo being an electric fighting type that gets some pretty decent coverage moves. So another Pokemon we see is a Galarian Stunfisk, which is pretty interesting. I've never actually seen one of these Pokemon in Pokerogue before, but we were able to wrap it up with the Tinkatink there, learning Rock Smash for pretty solid coverage. A Trumbeak here, we'll get simply a Metal Claw. We're going to take a decent amount of damage, but we're able to knock out the Trumbeak there. Going into the gym fight at level 30 against Larry. Obviously, in this instance, Larry has a normal types, which we're able to counter pretty well with some Draining Kisses by Tinkatink to begin on this Kamala, simply because we just don't want to lose too much health fighting this Kamala. Then going into a Dunsparce, not even the Dunsparce he has in the regular Scarlet and Violet games. But with this, we're just able to simply kind of slowly whittle him down using a mixture of Pyro Ball and Draining Kisses. There we go, we got the burns. Now its physical attack is reduced by 50%. For some reason he went for a Rain Dance right at the end, not really too sure on that one. And then as we kind of level up here, our Fuecoco finally evolves into a Crocolore, which I think is absolutely hideous and is completely so funny to be between like the cute little Fuecoco and the scary and like majestic Skeledirge should just be a derpy looking middle stage. I feel like it's most Pokemon starters, to be honest. It's able to take out our Tinkatink right at the end here, but then we're just simply able to go into our Frigibax, use some Icy Winds, and wrap up that battle. Now going into the next rival fight at level 55, starting off with our Arctibax now, into Skeledirge here, as we learn Ice Beam, which is super useful. And there we go, finally Crocolore evolves into Skeledirge. I know this was the very next battle for you guys, but this is about 25 levels in between here, so we finally learned Torch Song. And then also along with this, our Tinkatuff finally evolves into a Tinkaton. So now, 2 out of our 3 starters for this run are fully evolved, and Arctibax will be fully evolved soon. Now we see that Galarian Stunfisk, who is really just a problem. I mean, with the team we have now, we don't really have too good of an in to kind of hurt this Pokemon well. I mean, like, we're going to start off by going just for Torch Songs here with Skeledirge, because every time you hit one, you're just slowly getting more and more powerful. And now we learn Shadow Ball, which is super duper useful. The mixture of Torch Song and Shadow Ball can take out almost anything in this game. Like there, it knocks out the Axew, and then finally up is the Stunfisk with just a Sliver, so that wraps up that rival fight. Into the second gym fight here against Elisa at level 60. Obviously, primarily focused on electric types. But, like I said, Palmo does get a pretty decent amount of coverage moves, one of them being Dig, which is obviously going to hit almost all electric types pretty hard, except for that one right there being a Molga. It's one of the few electric types that can actually dodge Earth ground type moves, along with Electros is the other one I can think of. As he kind of takes out the first 2 Pokemon. Now seeing a Lantern, which is obviously going to soak up any electric type move there. Not sure why I picked that. Going for a close combat just to do a lot of damage. Take him down to a Sliver. And then we send in our Arctibax, who's just able to wrap up the Lantern with a Dragon Darts. Finally is a Zebstrika with a Sliver of health, which also falls to Dragon Darts. Going into a fight against Commander Mars. So this tells us that our evil team will be fighting this game will be Team Galactic, which me personally is my favorite evil team. I feel like it's pretty widely considered to be pretty popular. So the Ugly is able to take out our Skeledirge here, so we're able to go into our Pomo, go for a close combat with brings the Carnivine down to a Sliver. Goes into the Sneasler here, so we're going to switch into our Baxcalibur, which finally evolved in between battles. Go for a Glaive Rush there to knock out the Sneasler. If there's a Ugly in versus our Pomo, we're going to go for just a close combat to obliterate it. Now we see that Carnivine again with a Sliver of health, and Arcanine here in the yellow, so we're going to switch into our Tinkaton to be able to take any fire moves he throws. Ground moves hits us very hard, but we're able to knock it out for the victory. Now going into a gym fight at level 90 against Chuck. Starting off with a Torch Song into the Poliwrath there. So we kind of sit here and think about it for a second. Go for an Overdrive to knock Poliwrath down to just a Sliver. Going for another Torch Song, assuming for a switch there, which we get. And we get 2 more buffs, taking out the Scrafty, which is super valuable. Because now, once we're here, we're just able to slack off once to get our health back. Go for a Torch Song, knock it down, and get us up to, I believe, +5. Take an Assurance for minimal damage. Knock it out there. And then from here, pretty much nothing will be able to truly out-damage us in a one-turn match. Obviously, the Phantom Force from Annihilate is going to do a lot of damage, but we're able to knock it out and knock out the Poliwrath as well. Going into the rival fight at level 95 here. It's the first time we see a Terra on her starter being the Skeledirge. Take a whole bunch of damage there from the Torch Song. But we see this Galarian Stunfisk again, but at this point, Baxcalibur is just really truly became a wall for most of Ivy's team. Now we see Milotic, another just complete wall, but is taken out by one singular Glaive Rush from Baxcalibur. Seeing the Haxorus, so we know that's not going to stand a chance either. And then finally another Skeledirge, which you're able to take out with the Dragon Darts. And then the Toucannon, like always. It's going to fall to a single Glaive Rush. At level 114, we have a battle against another Team Galactic commander, this time being Saturn. So starting off with his infamous Skuntank, which we're able to kind of just fight off a lot of his damage using Slack Off, and then when he chooses not to go for his attack, we go for Torch Songs, and now our Skeledirge is at +2 now. So this Arcanine here is able to hit us down to 1 HP, but we're able to survive with our Focus Band there. Now we see an Overquill, which is pretty scary, honestly. We don't really have too good of an option into this. Ceaseless Edges are just simply hitting us down to just a Sliver every single time. We're able to get up to most of our health back and take it out with a Torch Song. And now at this point, pretty much anything we can hit with Skeledirge is going to knock it out, because we're at like +5, I believe. Prugly almost fainted even though it had Thick Fat, which was kind of crazy. Now we see a regular Quillfish going backwards on this battle, which you're able to take out with one Shadow Ball, and a Toxicroak, which is able to confuse us, but we go for a Torch Song. And now immediately after this battle, we go into our first battle against Boss Cyrus. Starting off with a Gyarados, so we're obviously going to go into our Pomo, expecting something that won't take a lot of damage from electric types. We go for a close combat. But then we do a couple switches. He gets into his Mega Houndoom, and I switch into Skeledirge, which is not the best matchup for us. We switch into Tinkaton. And then from here, it's able to knock us out with the Inferno. So maybe not the best decision by me. So then from here, we switch into Mousehold, which may seem like a little bit of a odd choice, but we are able to just go for Hyper Voices, knock Mega Houndoom down to a Sliver, and then knock it out, even though we fall ourselves. So now we see the Honchkrow come out, so we're going to go into our Belly Bolt. It is going to switch into Mesprit. Then from here, we're able to hit it down most of the way with one Sucker Punch and then knock it out with the second one. Goes into his Weavile here, his very infamous Weavile. It's able to hit us down below half with one Blizzard. It's able to knock our Pomo down to a Sliver with one second. And then it switches into a Crobat. So we go back into our Belly Bolt, knock our Weavile down to 1 health bar remaining. Knock it down to just under half, and dodge one last Blizzard to get the knockout there. Seeing a Crobat here, we get knocked down to a Sliver and then take it out with one Discharge. Honchkrow is able to knock us out, but we have Pomo, another electric type in the back. Even though we get taken out, the Honchkrow only has a Sliver remaining. And now seeing the Gyarados again, we're able to just go for a Glaive Rush to knock it down to a Sliver. And even though Gyarados gets a whole bunch of boosts there and is able to knock us out, we still have our Skeledirge in the back, which is just able to go for one Shadow Ball and knock it out. So that... Oh, and just the Honchkrow with a Sliver, which we're able to knock out. And that wraps up the first Cyrus battle. Going into another gym leader against Crest, which is It's pretty interesting, starting off with a Dreadnought, which we're able to knock out with our Skeledirge. Now seeing a Dodozo, which is going to knock us out with a Hydro Pump. But we were able to get it down just below half. As you see, we actually don't have most of our team for this battle. It was in the same set of 10 as the Cyrus fight, and we just did not have the money to buy all our Pokemon back. Seeing the Wish Cache here, we're going to go for a Dragon Darts, which does over half, so one more is going to knock it out. Now seeing one of the worst Pokemon ever designed, being Simipour, actually kills our Baxcalibur with a Hyper Beam, which is pretty funny after what I just said. But we're able to just simply take it out with a close combat. And last up is a Seismitoad, which is also going to fall to a close combat. And I actually lied, there is a Dondozo at the back there. And last out for us is a Tinkaton, but we're able to take it out with a Gigaton Hammer. Now we see the penultimate rival fight at level 145, starting off with a Skeledirge mirror match, but it makes a mistake of switching into Toucannon and Milotic, which are both going to take big chunks from Overdrive off of Skeledirge. Now that we go into Baxcalibur here, we're able to do pretty decent damage against the Galarian Stunfisk. Now, we can't switch due to Snap Trap, but we're able to handle the Stunfisk with some Ice Beams pretty handily. Now seeing the Haxorus, which is just going to fall to Dragon Darts. Pretty uneventful so far, start of this battle. Now we see the Skeledirge, it's obviously going to do pretty big damage with its Torch Tongue, taking out the Baxcalibur. So then we consider our options here and go into Palmo, and it switches into its shiny Rayquaza. So we do a Play Rough on its switched in Milotic after we go into Tinkaton. And we switch into Bellybolt, which feels like a pretty obvious decision here. Able to knock it down to its Sliver, although it is able to take us out. We now have our second electric type here, which will get Rayquaza's first health bar gone. We just switch right back into Tinkaton again, because Rayquaza cannot handle Tinkaton in the slightest. It's able to take out the Skeledirge, the Play Rough plus a Brutal Swing. And now we're able to just Play Rough the Rayquaza once, and Play Rough it twice to knock it out. Now we see the Toucannon, who is in the red, so it's going to be no issue for our Tinkaton to knock it out with a Gigaton Hammer. And last is a Milotic, which will just simply fall to the Brutal Swing. Second nice gym fight here against Rourke, the Rock-type gym leader from Sinnoh. So as we kind of think here, we switch into our Palmo. Obviously Palmo has both Dig and Close Combat, which are super effective against Rock types. As it does have to Golem there, which is not our best play, as it immediately knocked us out with an explosion. From here we switch into our Tinkaton, which also has a super effective move against Rock types, being Gigaton Hammer. She's able to take out the Probopass pretty surprisingly. Barbaracle gets knocked out, or knocked down to a Sliver with one Gigaton Hammer. It's able to knock us down to 17 health with Liquidation, but then we're able to respond with a Play Rough. Rampardos falls to one Gigaton Hammer, and now Tyranitar is able to knock us out. However, we have 4 Pokemon remaining to Rourke's 1. One Glaive Rush knocks him down below half. A second knocks him down into the red, even though he's able to knock us out. Now have 3 Pokemon remaining, and we end up actually going into Mouse Hold for the final bit of the fight. Now going into the final Cyrus fight, starting off with an Azelf. It's pretty interesting. Now we see the Mega Houndoom, which is pretty scary. Goes back into Azelf. Goes back into Mega Houndoom. He's just switching between those two. Now we assume he's going to switch again. And then from here, he simply just lets his Azelf fall to 2 Shadow Balls from Skeledirge. Now he goes back into his Mega Houndoom, hits us down to around 50 HP remaining. We're able to knock him out there. Going into his Darkrai here, we're just going to go for 1 Slack Off to heal up, even though we get immediately knocked out, so maybe not our best play there. Going into our Tinkaton, who's able to do some damage to Electrode. And then we switch into our Palmo here to take decent damage from a Thunder, as we have the Dig to hit the Electrode and knock it out there. Going into his Salamence here, obviously Ice type is the best way to go, so Ice and Fairy I suppose, but our Ice type move from Baxcalibur is going to simply knock it out in one shot. Going into his Weavile here, which can be very annoying at times to deal with. Able to knock 1 health bar down with a Glaive Rush, and then knock it out with Dragon Darts. Then we see the Darkrai here, and not get knocked out from a Fiery Wrath, but we're able to go into our Tinkaton here, take some damage from an Ice Beam and knock it out there. And then right at level 170, we actually catch our last Pokemon for the run, being a Brambleghast here. He's actually going to replace our Belly Bolt, as we see one last gym leader here at level 180 being Tate, I believe. But obviously with Skeledirge having Shadow Ball, I don't think you expected this battle to be hard. Spoiler alert, it's not. So we're simply just able to one-shot everything with a Shadow Ball. Going into Elite Four here, we see Lorelei starting off, so we got Gen 1 yet again, as Skeledirge is just simply able to knock out the Lapra with a Overdrive. Seeing a Cryogonal here, and we go for a Torch Song to knock it out there. As we now see a Frostmoth go for another Torch Song, get yet another kill here. And then we see a Slowbro, our typical non-conventional Terra-typed Iced. Seeing a Jinx here, just the worst Pokemon design ever. And now we see a Sandslash, and I don't think you thought that it would survive a Torch Song, and that wraps up the first Elite Four member. Going into Bruno here, the second Elite Four member being Fighting types, which may not seem like there's a great option. However, we have Tinkaton with Fairy-type moves, which I'm always surprised to remember that Fairy is super effective on fighting. And then for something like its Golem there, we're able to go for a Gigaton Hammer. One shot, it's Hitmonchan with a Play Rough, as well as its Machamp. And then the Glade does a decent amount of damage with a Bitter Blade, but then we're able to knock it out with another Play Rough. Finally being the Poliwrath, which we're able to just wipe up Bruno real quick. Going into the third Elite Four member, facing off against some Ghost types here. And obviously we have Skeledirge with Shadow Balls that's able to pretty much outspeed and outdamage almost anything. Even this Arbok here, although it's able to take one Torch Song, is just simply getting us buffed up for any future Pokemon. So like this Gengar here, it's just going to get knocked out by a single Shadow Ball. And the Crobat here, while it can hit us with a Floaty Fall, will also get knocked out. Fourth and final Elite Four member is Lance with his Dragon types. So obviously we have Tinkaton here, who's able to do good damage with Play Rough to any actual Dragon types. However, Gyarados is not one of those. So we assume that he's going to switch into something, so we go for a Phantom Force to get at least some damage off on our Dragonite here. Take some damage from the Hurricane, switch him back into his Gyarados. So we can do this switch yet again. Assuming he's going to switch into one of his Dragons, and then once he does that, switch into our Tinkaton. It's even better there because he goes for a Poison move, which is obviously not affected at all by our Tinkaton. We're actually going to our Maushold here to go for a Population Bomb, which actually does just about enough damage. Now we see the Dragon-type Executor. It's able to knock us out with a Superpower. But we can just simply go into our Tinkaton here, knock it out with a Play Rough, knock out the Dragalge with not one, but two attacks there. And finally is an Aerodactyl that's Terra Dragoned. Or not finally, but I'll knock it down to just about there as Tinkaton gets knocked out. But we go into our Baxcalibur here, who is able to knock out the Aerodactyl with the Dragon Darts. And then last up is a Garchomp, which takes it just to a Sliver, but then for some reason he decides to switch, which is interesting. Hits us to just over a quarter. And then last up is Champy in blue here. So starting with a Alakazam that we're able to just immediately knock out with a Shadow Ball. Seeing an Arcanine here, we're able to knock it down low with one single Shadow Ball. And then knock it out with the second one here. Now we see a Ho-Oh that is Terra Flying typed. It's able to knock us down pretty hard with an Earthquake. It goes for a Revival Blessing to revive the Alakazam. Doesn't do too much damage to a Brambleghast here, but it's able to knock us out with an Overheat, which pretty surprised at Ho-Oh as, to be honest. As we are going for some Torchon here to build up our special attack. It does a pitiful amount with this Thunderbolt, but at this point we have such a high special attack stat that very few mons in the game are going to be able to take the combo of either a Torch Song or a Shadow Ball. There, the Electrode falls to a Torch Song. The Mega Pidgeot is actually able to take us out, but that's okay. We have our Baxcalibur in the back here to go for an Ice Beam. Switch into Palmo to take out the Magnezone here with a quad effective Dig. As he has two Pokemon remaining. He's able to knock us out with a Hurricane there, which I'm shocked he's able to hit so many Hurricanes in this battle, as he hits his third in a row, which is crazy odds, not gonna lie, but that's okay. We're able to take it out with an Ice Beam, and then last up is his Ho-Oh with just a Sliver, so that knocks out the champion there. Final rival fight time here, as he starts out with his Terra Skeledirge, able to immediately knock out one health bar with a Shadow Ball. We heal off as he switches into 2 cannon here. So we're simply going to go for an overdrive, knock out its first health bar, take some damage from Beak Blast, and knock out the 2 cannons. So that's 1 down, 5 to go. Seeing a Milotic here, it's a little scary, but we have our Bramble Gas to switch into. As we go for a Phantom Force on this Mega Rayquaza here, knocking out his first of 4 health bars. So we're able to just simply switch into Tinkaton. We know he's going to switch most likely into Galarian Stunfisk here. And we go into our Skeledirge, which he switches into Milotic, which is a good switch. However, now that we're +1, we're able to do a ton with an overdrive here. And get the kill with the second overdrive there. Now we see the Mega Rayquaza yet again. And he's able to take us out with a Hurricane, but that's okay because we still have Tinkaton here who we're able to switch into. Go for a Gigaton Hammer, which actually takes out one of Skeledirge's health bars. As now we switch into Moushold to just get immediately obliterated by an Overheat. Switch into Baxcalibur to get the kill with the Dragon Darts. Now we see the Haxorus, which is able to knock us down deep into the red, but we're able to get the return KO with the Dragon Darts. Now that we see this Galarian Stunfisk yet again, hopefully for the final time, we're able to knock it down pretty low with 1 Glaive Rush, although it is able to knock us out with a Snap Trap. Then from here, we go for a Power Whip. Maybe not the best move, maybe we should have went for Phantom Force to begin with. But he stupidly goes for a Hurricane, which means we're able to knock out down to its final health bar, even though it ends up taking us out with the Overheat there. We can now simply go into Tinkaton and get the almost KO on Stunfisk and knock it out with the Brutal Swing there. Last up is just the Mega Rayquaza, so this means as we live on exactly 4 HP that we're able to knock it out and complete the last rival fight. Final level time against Eternatus. Starting off with our Tinkaton. And kind of our plan here for this first phase of the fight is to stall out all 5 Eterna Beams by using Tinkaton, as it also negates the Sludge Bombs that the Eternatus could throw. And as I'm doing this, I'm kind of keeping track on paper because I just don't want to mess it up, because that would be really embarrassing if I miscounted. As I believe that is number 3 now, I want to say. Yep, that would be number 4. And I thought there was going to be one more, so I did one more switch around. And then from here, we're able to heal. And then we're going to just start slowly building up our special attack. Even though it won't do too much damage in this phase, we're kind of just planning on starting to use Shadow Balls in the second phase. So he's able to hit us for a decent amount of damage, but we're also able to just heal up with Slack Off. So like, it's unfortunate we get poison there, but we also have a Lumberry to heal off the poison. Assuming we're going to see another one, so we Slack Off again. Get knocked down to just over half. We're just kind of trying to out-heal him. And so now that we're in the second phase here, our plan is just to go for Shadow Balls and hopefully let everything else besides the Skeledirge fall. So like there, the Pomo falls to the Dynamax Cannon, but we're able to hit him pretty hard with our first Shadow Ball. We're able to knock out the first health bar as Bramble Gas gets obliterated. Now going into Moushold here. So we're able to knock Emax Eternatus down deep on its second health bar, as Eternatus is able to knock out our Moushold with a second Dynamax Cannon, as we're just slowly trying to whittle away at Eternatus' health here. Super nice that our Baxcalibur is able to live 1 attack, so it's able to get off of Dragon Darts as it falls to a second Dynamax Cannon. However, we are able to hit it down to exactly like 2 health, so then we know with 1 final Shadow Ball we will be able to complete the run. So that wraps up our run. I just wanted to say thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you would like to see more. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Peace.